I'm an absolute party animal. Have you figured that out by now? The day that we're trying to set up for next week, nonprofit speaker, and Thursday we have a conference, so that would be a normal Thursday, but I can't do it on Thursday. So whatever it is, don't ask me now, but whether it's, and I'm not suggesting this year, but I think what would make for a happy home is perhaps January. Whatever. Well, that worked for yours. No, 4:30 is fine. That works for you. Okay, just. So once you go two guys agree, and then I'll agree with you two guys. That sounds good. We'll have 3 out of 3. Okay. Every day but third, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. Yeah. Well, if I had to do it on Friday, I would. No, you gotta get up there and support that golf. Just that? I think there is this one. Is that the last Monday? We should get that. Yeah.
So then it'd be Tuesday, Wednesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday. Okay. I haven't had a meeting yet. No, just Monday. Just Monday.
We have a meeting with you.
On Tuesday, Wednesday. Thank you.
Yeah.
I consider that a privilege.
Yeah, there we go.
Thanks, Ed. Finance director gives us that all the time. Okay? Sure, yeah. But the date, end of March, we should have it into June by now. I'm wondering if that's an error.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yep, you're right. Then walk on first square.
Wait a second. That's good.
Well, they have that
5 days, 5 months late.
That's right, that's a good point.
So, Councillors, I actually expect our remaining 2 members, or at least I haven't heard that they're not coming. So if it's okay, I'm going to give them 5 minutes. Okay, I'll take a little walk.
Mike still works. That was a good deal when I checked that. It works. At least the light goes on.
Yeah, who knows if they can hear you.
Yeah,
The light works.
But I hear it's the same thing about little kids, second and third grade, by school district, 6 or 7.
You know, they probably just look at the numbers and
Yeah.
don't read
Read
the
the
rest.
essay.
All the way
Yeah,
down.
absolutely.
Gotta read page 2.
Yeah,
And it,
exactly.
like the second page is kind of eerie, but in the middle of this
You're
is
going all the way
not
to
necessarily going to impact your text drastically out.
Right.
Exactly. You know, exactly.
That's, yeah.
But, yeah, but see that, I said that right away to John when we got ours. I said, you know what, people are gonna look at just the amounts that are gonna flip out, you know what I mean? They're not gonna read.
All right, councilors, I'm going to start the meeting. They're in the building. Let's see if we can't just make them hustle a little bit. So it is 6:31 p.m. I will call the Tuesday, August 20th meeting of the Superior Common Council to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Ledeen. Counselor Van Sickle. Counselor Moffett. Counselor Sweeney. Counselor Fennessy. Counselor Elm. Vice President Ludwig. Counselor Herrick. Counselor Johnson. And President Grasky.
And no, Counselor Sweeney was actually just over the wire. So, welcome, everybody. We have a quorum. So, Councilors, I'll skip 3.1. You see as a canceled public hearing. That is, we haven't seen that before. This was noticed. You actually set this public hearing, but there were a reason. I forget exactly the reason that we had to cancel it. So we posted the cancellation just in case anybody was planning to come to that. You will see another resolution to set a future public hearing at the end of the agenda.
Item 4.1 is the approval of the August 6, 2024 regular council meeting minutes.
Motion is by Councilor Herrick, second by Councilor Elm. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
And 6.1 is report for Mayor Payne.
Hey, good evening again, councilors. First, you'll notice in the correspondence to be filed that Director Reinhardt has submitted the audited financial statement and results. I'm sure Councilor Sweeney will describe that presentation from the previous Finance Committee meeting, but I wanted to let you know I'm asking them to prepare an abbreviated version of the audit to bring to the full council. I think we haven't done that in the past, but I'd like to get into that practice. The Finance Committee meeting that's a long, full presentation, but the short version I think should be pretty interesting to all councilors. So I'll try to get that in the next month or so before the budget. Speaking of the budget, that process has begun. I have my first headache of the season from it, and it is going well, but it's the kind of magic has worn off of the summer where we all finish dreaming about what we could do, and we get into the kind of hard reality of the revenue that we actually have. So I won't really know where we're at or be able to provide an update for another couple of weeks. We still have some final revenue numbers coming in, but I am going to start meeting with department heads this week and next to start drilling down the general fund, and then middle to late September is when I'll start creating that CIP. If anybody would like an update as we go, let me know. I think we have most of your priorities. I hope if you have not turned them in, I could have them tonight. If you need help with it, let me know. We can work on that in the next day or two as well, but we will need those as we start getting into budget prep here, which is now. Just a couple more things I have. As you know, we have finished our last nonprofit grants application period for the ARPA funds. We have several applications. Our small group will bring some light recommendations, not as formal as we have in the past, to the Finance Committee at their next regular meeting. So that will be the Finance Committee meeting in September. I believe that's the second Thursday. And this will really be a legislative decision. Finance Committee is going to be making the formal recommendations to you. But I'll be there and hope to help to explain all of those. And if you'll remember, we agreed to intervene, or you authorized us to intervene in Superior Water, Light, and Power's rate case at the Public Service Commission. That process is underway right now, and the public comment period has opened in what I think is an early win. I don't know how significant it is. The PSC has agreed to hold an actual public hearing here in Superior. I don't know that that's happened in a very long time. You can leave a public comment anytime on the PSC's website up to September 12th, so next month. But on September 9th at 2 p.m. and 6 p.m., there will be a public hearing to hear public feedback about the proposed rate increases from Superior Water, Light, and Power. That will be in this building in room 270. That's just across the hall. So again, everybody is welcome to participate. I strongly encourage you to urge your constituents to come and just talk about your real experiences paying utility bills. We're going to still make a pretty strong case within the docket itself, and I'll also submit a formal public comment, but I encourage everybody to participate in that. Okay, finally, the actual bit of business I have here. This is, I meant to bring this to our previous committee of the whole meeting, the one that got canceled, and then I wasn't here. So I have been, this is an ordinance to clarify how our agendas are constructed. I've wanted to work on this for the last few years, so obviously this is not urgent. If folks want to take some time with this, I perfectly understand. In fact, I would expect you to hold this for at least one meeting as I'm introducing it directly to council. But I had a couple of problems. I've had problems with this agenda ordinance for years. If you pull up the resolution, what you'll see is that it speaks in the original ordinance speaks in the passive voice, meaning, oh, thank you. The way it currently reads is new business may be introduced directly to the Common Council or through a committee having jurisdiction over the subject matter. That means it's anybody, anywhere, could just introduce anything to the council. That could cause some real problems. It has caused a few minor problems in the past. And so I figured we should at least clarify who has ability to do it. I had a long conversation with the clerk about it, long conversation with the council leadership. No easy answer to this, but at the very least, obviously the mayor and councilors need to be able to add things to their own agenda. That's the basics. Talked about department heads a city officer fulfilling a statutory responsibility. And the reason I put those three categories in, and only those three, plus committees remain, obviously it can come from committee, is because that's our process right now. So department heads, any city staff really can request to add something to the council agenda. That all comes through my office. So I'm generally always signing a memo to send that to the council. Any one of you can obviously add something to the agenda. But there are occasionally instances where a city officer has business where they shouldn't be bound by asking permission from either you or me. The city, I added that third paragraph because we have, well, not finally, I added that third paragraph because we have no rules at all for how things are added to committee agendas. And this, I just basically use the same rule. The members themselves, city councilors, the mayor, city officers that have clear business can add things to the committee agendas. The only other example I had was the county board, where their committees, only the chair. I mean, only the chair can add things. City department heads, members, nobody can add it except the chair. That's a bit extreme. And so this is pretty much anybody that can add something to the council agenda, including other committees. And finally, we put a real deadline on there. Thursday at noon. We just have to have a standard. We're always running stuff late. The clerk can waive that as necessary. There are emergencies. There are last-minute things that come up. But we got to have some kind of standard that says, like, hey, the council needs a certain amount of time to review what's going to be in front of them. That's a lot, I know. Since this is council, I'd ask somebody at least move its approval, and then we can dispose of it as you wish and begin a conversation now. And again, if you want to take some time with it, please feel free. Motion is by Councilor Moffitt, second by Councilor Dean. Questions or discussion? Councilor Sweeney.
My question would be, does the same process hold then if it comes to the city council? Can another city council with a second refer to if there is an existing committee that normally would handle that?
Absolutely. So all this is introduction of business. Right. And any member, the thing that trips us up is because we're bound by open meeting law. So we have to notice what's going to be on the agenda. Right. If we did not have that rule, you could just show up and make a motion for whatever you wanted. So yes, once it is proposed, you may dispose of it any way you want, including not considering it at all. Just because a council puts it on doesn't mean it's getting a second. Other questions or discussion?
We've got in here the deadline for reporting to for a council meeting. Do we want a similar deadline for standing committees, just out of respect for whoever, whether it's the HR director, the city clerk, whoever leads those meetings, just so we're not trying to put something in last minute, or is that not as big of a deal as the council?
I think that's a perfectly reasonable idea. That I think that would frustrate committee members. If you've prepared a couple days before the meeting and then something's added to the agenda at the last minute, it's going to be frustrating. The question is who? We have the clerk prepares our agendas. Many different staff prepare the many different committees. But I think if you can think of a way to phrase it, or again, if you want to take some time, I'll think of a way to phrase it. But a deadline for that makes sense to me.
Like 48 hours?
Agenda's prepared 48 hours. I'm sure they have to be prepared 24 hours, so 48 is reasonable to me.
I'm trying to think of where that would like trip us up. I know sometimes like on the plan commission we get something last minute that it's kind of time sensitive that goes on, and so maybe it's not even necessary to have that on there.
They have a 24-hour rule. The only argument I can think against what you're suggesting is that the pressure is typically a little bit lower at committees, because it's very rare for a committee to actually adopt something. Never. There are some committees that can adopt things, but it's pretty rare. So if something is dropped 24 hours on the Plan Commission and you're not ready, I mean, we'll hold it. We'll hold a special meeting.
All right, or it goes to council for final approval.
Sure.
So you'd have that next time. Yeah, I'll hold off on that.
Any further questions or discussion? Sorry to spring it on you at the council meeting. Like I said, my conversation with the leadership went over an hour. One of the things we fixated most on was the definition of a city officer versus department head. We actually don't have a definition for department head in ordinances. We do have definitions for city officers, so that's why we went with that. Okay, then I'll ask your pleasure.
I get it.
Yes, Councilor
The intent is we're not really changing anything. We're just putting in writing what we've been doing with business all along. And the intent here, it was never intended that a citizen could just come and put something on the agenda. Is that correct?
I don't think that is the intention. Obviously, there are some statutory ways that can happen, but the statute makes it very difficult to do that. So, no, I don't believe that was the intention. Quite frankly, I think it was just poor writing. But yes, this has been our practice for several years now. Not forever. I mean, I remember a time when it looked very different, but yes, memos come. The administration prepares memos for me that go to the council. Occasionally, things will be placed directly on your agenda where they definitely have to put it in front of you.
Right. So, in a sense, if a citizen wanted to place something, they'd have to convince a city councilor, mayor, official.
They have 11 cracks at it.
All right. Very good. So, all right. Just wanted to verify that. We're really not changing anything. We're just cleaning up, and that's what it sounded like.
Not changing practice, but yes, I do. We're defining, fleshing out the ordinance.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm not hearing a lot of concern, so I'm going to call the vote unless anybody wants to make any other motions. All right, then all those in favor of adopting the ordinance, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries. Thank you, councilors.
Item 7.2 is the business of the Public Works Committee with a meeting held on August 1st. Is there a report from the chair?
Yes, thank you. The Public Works Committee had a very full agenda, so I just want to thank the Vice Chair Ladine for covering for me when I had to unexpectedly run out of town. We had a presentation by the Environmental Services Division just to give us an update and follow up on that email we got. The Rain Barrel program is one of the most popular things they do, so they were just helping us learn a little bit more about the logistics of getting that program to the public and just discuss some ways that we might be able to support them in potentially expanding that. Also, the Public Works Committee has a standing item on the agenda for lead service lines. So if you got a chance to read the minutes, you'll see that Superior Water, Light, and Power is making progress on their inventory. Their inventory is funded by a contractors that the EPA is funding through the Accelerated Communities grant program. So as of right now, there are two buckets. There's public, we'll say public and private percentages that are completed. So as of right now, 5% of the people they have surveyed have been identified to have lead service lines in their homes. They still don't have 26% of folks that have responded. If we end up with a lower than expected number, like 5%, it's a dramatically smaller number that we would be looking at in helping the community get these lead lines replaced at 5%. But if we don't hear from the 26% of people that are unknown, all of them will just be marked as having lead lines. And for Superior Water, Light, and Power side, which we'll call the private side, they have, I think, identified up to 37% of their infrastructure as being positive for lead. So we're not really talking about the mains, we're talking about the arms that connect the residential part into your home. And they've been really trying to reach folks. You can connect with them through text messages and photos. And we talked a little bit about folks not wanting to respond because, you might not want to invite a $10,000 bill into your home, but we really tried to discuss the importance of folks clearing themselves of that bill because only 5% in the whole, 75% have had a positive ID on their infrastructure. So 5% of 10,000 people, if Superior Water, Light, and Power gets state and federal help, 50% principal forgiveness, we're talking about $2.5 million. If they don't get state and federal support at that same margin, it's automatically double. So residents will be looking at $5,000 or $10,000 if they don't get that. If the Water, Light, and Power can't change the state law. So please encourage folks to respond and participate in their outreach effort any way that they can. Worst case scenario, 26% at $10,000 per home is about $31 million. So that's a pretty large swing. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask. I'll do my best, but Jossie, Scandell, or Todd can be helpful. We did have something of a shared docket earlier in the year, but state law is just really in the way. We also discussed the newly launched composting program, and folks are using it. They have found it. It's been exciting, not without some problems. So folks are finding it and throwing their garbage in it, or the fish stations down at Loon's Foot are so well utilized that it smells like fish. So working through some of that, we've moved some containers around and improved signage to help people find those and use them appropriately. Of course, traffic concerns from the 1st district to the 3rd district, trying to figure out stop sign placement north, south, and new patterns and new businesses and things like that, trying to get that together. Approve some urgent repairs at ESD and some important design work with the combined stations 5 and 6 and at MSB. If you haven't had a chance to look at the design plans for MSB, that of course houses our most expensive and maybe our most important equipment. So if you look in the minutes, I think he gave it to us on a thumb drive, but it was recorded and they did give a presentation. So that's something you can check out there as well. And finally, I'll just say that after almost 6 years, there are essentially 3 violations that we deal with at the Environmental Services Division. So you could have CSO, SSO, or an effluent. And this past month was the first time we had an effluent violation in almost 6 years. And it's not really anybody's fault. It's just a coalesce of a bunch of things that were happening in the city with the utility and whatnot. So the system just got a little bit overwhelmed. Nothing too serious. I think that's it. Hammond's coming right along. 39th is about to be fully fixed, and just thank you to Public Works staff and Park staff for their work and them willing to table at Bayside Sounds. That was just really appreciated, and nearly 300 people attended. So thank you, everybody in Parks and Public Works. Let me see if there's business, sorry.
Counselor, there is business, but if I could just add, because I'm feeling a bit defensive of ESD. I think you explained it well,
Thank
but
you.
as difficult as an affluent violation is, you never want to have that. But these things do happen. You know, what is far less common is a 6-year stretch without them happening. So even though it's a violation, it really is. I think it actually kind of calls attention to just how great a job they're doing, how efficient that plant has become. And so it's never a great day to get a violation, but it was, they really are doing a pretty remarkable job down there. And at some point I'll refer you to a previous council meeting where from years and years ago when things were just really in crisis down there, and they've come very far. So thank you for saying that.
Thank you, Mayor. And about redesigning, I would move to approve items 1, 2, and 3.
Motion by Councilor Van Sickle, second by Councilor Grasky to approve the 3 recommendations of the Public Works Committee. Everybody has them in front of them. Any discussion? Councilor Sweeney.
I just have a question about the laterals in the main line with the water lines.
Okay.
So the main lines, if you would, they're about 34% of those are still lead?
37% of Superior Water, Light, and Power's inventory has been positively ID'd for lead. So they're making progress, but they still have some to survey on their end.
Right. But my unsophisticated term would say the mains. Is that true? Is that what you're talking about, their inventory?
Almost. The mains are like the largest arteries. What I understand to be testing positive is what's coming off of the main.
The laterals. From the main to the house.
Yes.
Okay.
And then there's that third piece is the residential line.
Okay. But that includes, when you said, that includes all water, business, private, whatever, right?
Yes.
Okay. So roughly 10,000 is the number you used. So 5% of that is my term, the laterals, which are lead. And so simple math would tell me that 95% of them are not lead. Is that accurate?
75% of residential lead lines have been cleared, good to go. So there's 26% outstanding and 5% identified on the residential side. So that's one bucket. But the private water, light, and power side has 37%, and then about the remaining to 100% to survey yet.
Okay, but the 26% then that haven't reported or they don't
Yeah.
know, we can't. I mean, I think we're assuming that all 26% have lead, but that's not 100% accurate, right?
Yeah, until we get a confirmation either way. If we get to October and we still don't know, if we have not made contact, they'll get put into the positive lead bucket.
How did they determine, if you know, the 74% that there's only 5% of the 75? How did they determine that?
They sent letters, knocked on doors. It's literally less than a 5-minute inspection with somebody come in, puts eyes on it, and now they've tried to be more accessible where you can just take a photo and submit it, and that will give you a yay or nay, and then it goes into the database that will go live in the fall. So folks will know if they're...
Okay. So we can't assume that all 26% are not...
We shouldn't assume.
We shouldn't, right.
But
Okay.
until we know, we will.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But then that 30% have you said, those are the mains, if you would.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you,
That
Counselor.
clarifies it for me.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Moffitt, is a question on lead lines.
Yes.
Council, is there
Pivot to
any
me.
objection to this? I actually think it's an important conversation. Is there any objection to me remaining outside the rules and letting this conversation keep going? Okay. We're gonna suspend the rules at this point. I don't think we need to know. We're going to carry on conversation until we come back to the business. Councilor Moffitt.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's a $30 million potential cost, like, you know, if that's like a worst case scenario or something like that. do we have an appraisal of what the system value is? Because when I've been doing research, the Public Services Commission determines value based on installation minus depreciation, and there's a small base rate. And when Beloit bought their water system in 2003, they paid $20 million, and they had 35,000 people in their community. So I think it's likely that 31 or whatever number is probably higher than the cost of what the city could get the federal funding for sure if we owned the utility. I'm just wondering on the math on that, it might be cheaper for the city to buy the utility instead of the lead lines.
That is a good point. And if no help comes, the citizens will pay 100% of $31 million plus 10% into perpetuity.
Councilor Herrick.
Yeah, my question, again, related to this topic is that, I don't know if you have the answer, but I'll throw it out there.
I'll try.
Okay. Okay, you mentioned that Superior Water and Power is actually are they actually working with Madison to try to get that particular language removed? So they're actually doing that themselves?
Yeah, we put that issue together in partnership as a Superior Days issue, so
Right.
that was fully in the booklet.
Right.
And we had a joint docket over the spring, and ultimately just that's not going to work out because none of us are eligible. We cancel each other out for the federal and state money. So until we get that that language changed, they'll just be boxed out unless a public entity owned it.
Okay, the reason why I mentioned that, because I know when we're down at, Superior Days, I mean, everybody's surprised that this is even still in the books, and they said it shouldn't be no problem on both sides to have this remedied, so that's why I'm kind of surprised.
I mean, I think best case scenario, they asked for it 20 years ago.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Are there any further questions or discussion about the subject of lead lines? Seeing none, we will go back in a regular order where the question is whether to approve the 3 recommendations of the Public Works Committee. Any discussion on those recommendations? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 8.1.1 is the business of the Communications and Information Technology Committee with a meeting held on.
Actually, I'm sorry.
Committee of the Whole, sorry.
Finance Committee had a meeting but
I'm
doesn't
sorry,
have business.
everybody.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. 7.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I've got 3 items that are of interest and I need to know. First of all, we've had a couple of meetings with the health insurance company, Marsh McLennan, and they put it out for bids this year, and they've received 7 bids on our insurance, and they're going to go through those and recommend in, I believe, October to the Finance Committee, the top 3, okay? So that's good news that we are receiving 7 bids. That in itself is good. And so the city believes, Marsh McLennan believes, he's recommending at this time, it may be a little premature, but no increase in rates. So that's great news. If it works out that way, I'm not sure, but at least preliminary, there'll be no rate increase. So I think everybody has to get credit for that, okay? I think management has to get credit for that, and the employees too, and the couple committees at work. It does seem to be, this is the Marsh McLennan's melding together now. It's working. People in the Wellness Committee are working, and so I think that's all makes for our rates are 0 if increase. Now, I don't know if that's true across this geographic area or not. I suspect it's not, but so I think that kudos to the City of Superior. So that's good news. The audit, the second item, Baker Tilly, this was their new auditor, 2nd year, and they're not here to speak, but I think they did a great job. I'm impressed with them. And so it was a long audit, and I think that I would bore everybody by telling you what interests me. Okay, so I'm just going to cut it to 3 or 4 items, and I think, like the mayor alluded to, our funding balances are all great, okay? So that's the first concern. Our benchmarks were all met or exceeded, which is fantastic. Our total debt to our, what we can borrow money is well below. I would almost be willing to bet in the top 5%. So that's great. And so the reserves are all met and they're good. And so I think it's a great report. That I can see, the only thing that worries me a little bit is the possible out at the sewer system out at the Wisconsin Point. We have to get set aside some money, but I think that's a minor thing. So I talked to the finance director and the assistant, and they're very impressed with the company we have. They did a good job. We have new auditors. We had 2 new people in the finance department, and we had a movement. So all those things concerned, I think it went great. And so I applaud the management of the city, and also I have a number of questions yet I've submitted to them, but it's just some minor thing, nothing, but I just live in that world, that's all. So when they get back to me, I'll be more than happy to share them. But so that's a great report, and so I think we can leave it at that. And when the short version comes out, it'll cover these things. But there's other items too. So overall, it's a great report. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are there any questions for the Finance Committee Chair? If not, President Kraske, did you have a report from the Committee of the Whole?
I just want to personally thank this council for putting in the time. I know that at times it kind of seems pretty long, but I think it's very informational, and plus the allowance to kind of go back and look at it helps us with better budgeting, and just really appreciate everyone's time once and again. Thank you.
All right, item 8.1.1 is the business of the Communications and Information Technology Committee with a meeting held on August 14th. Is there a report from the chair?
Yeah, just a quick one. Last week, the CIT committee had met for a special meeting, and the primary focus was on Vetro's GIS fiber management system. This was ultimately recommended for managing our Connect Superior fiber network. The system offers detailed tracking of fiber lines, the nodes, and connections, providing a clear view of the network's layout. It'll help integrate the data sources related to the network, including the installation details, performance metrics, which aids in troubleshooting and planning. And during the meeting, there were some examples given how having this available to us can help reduce repair times from 8 hours to 1 or 2 hours, just by having that network map available and for in and out of field use cases. The system also supports informed decision-making regarding the network expansion and improvements. It's also designed to scale with network growth. The software handles increasing numbers of users and data efficiently. So having this system in place is just another pivotal and vital part of planning the Connect Superior network, as well as operating and maintaining the project. So I'm going to recommend the item for approval here. If Heidi, the city clerk, could read it off. Thanks.
Yeah, the recommendation is to waive the bidding process and enter into a 3-year agreement with Vetro Incorporated for a subscription to Vetro Fiber Map Operator in the amount of $75,000.
Motion is by Councilor Elm, second by Councilor Ludwig. Is there discussion? Councilor Fennessy.
So we're looking to waive the bidding requirements here, and many times when we do it, it makes logical sense. But for this, I'm not seeing that logical sense why we should be waiving the bidding requirements. There are hundreds of fiber management system providers out there. We looked at 3, brought one of them to the committee, who was then allowed the advantage of making a presentation to the committee, and then it's here to waive that bidding requirements. And this is also on the heels of at July's council meeting, the IT committee requests that we waive the bidding requirements for Entrust Engineering for a $402,000 contract. But when there are literally hundreds of options for this very product, we look at 3, bring one of them to the IT committee. To me, that doesn't warrant waiving the bidding requirements. So I would much rather that we go through the formal and fair process of selecting this fiber management provider.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I don't know, is that a motion that I would make to refer it back? I don't know if we've ever been in.
You can certainly make a motion to refer. Voting it down would largely accomplish the same thing. So it's a motion to put it out to bid. I think that would be a main motion, and it should be separate. So I think we should decide the question, should we waive the bidding procedure? You know, we could divide the question. So we could take a vote first on whether to waive the bidding procedure. Then if that passes, we can take a vote on whether to approve the contract.
Yeah, that's
okay.
fair.
A request to divide is privileged, so the question now becomes whether to waive the bidding procedure. Councilor, you made the original motion, which still stands. Do you want to explain why we should waive the bidding procedure? And if you'd like, we can invite broadband manager back up as well.
Yeah, I'm going to certainly request our broadband manager, Stephanie Becken, to come up to the floor here. But certainly when it comes to building a network such as Connect Superior, there's important compatibility and familiarity with such products. And with building a special network such as Connect Superior with open access features, we want to be able to have this type of partner that's going to be able to be efficient in building it. So I'll just hand it over to Stephanie here. Thanks.
So, Director Becken, the question specifically, why waive the bidding procedure?
Yeah. So why waive the bidding procedure on this one? So we did talk to a few, and when we started, they were all coming in on right at or under the 25,000 mark. So that's usually that mark of where you put something out to bid or where you can just enter into a contract without council approval. So through this whole of it, we were at that spot where I didn't even think we were going to need to come for formal approval on it as. So this one we ended up, it suits our needs extremely well. It works into our COS system that we are using. They already have an API that goes right into it, so it feeds and works together extremely well. They actually waived the cost of that integration on it, so it makes it even more attractive. Putting it out to bid does open us up to being able to find maybe companies that are younger, that are less expensive, but do not necessarily do the things that we want. These guys have a mobile app at this point that is very new into the area that works extremely well for a contractor to be able to use. So for our model, having that ability to have a contractor have a mobile app that can work through the different functions to take pictures, to upload what is happening in the field, and then to be able to add to our real-time map is a very big deal. So we could going through the bidding process now would mean putting that RFP together, would mean time, honestly. And at the end of the day, we're going to be asking for this. So going out to bid does extend timelines significantly, and fiber starts going in September 3rd. So there's a few factors in there that make waiving it will, of course, always do, as we're told, it will be a hardship.
Further discussion or questions? Councilor Fennessy.
So if I understand the reasoning correctly, it was kind of twofold. Is originally we thought it was going to be under 25,000, but now it's not 75,000, and we're anticipating that there's going to be younger companies, not as experienced, smaller. They don't have the features. But my whole point is we don't know that. We don't know that because we're not looking to go through that process. We're not looking to do that. We only looked at three different companies, and to me, we've got to do diligence when we're looking at a $75,000 contract to make sure that we're getting the best value. There may be, if we put this out for bid, there may be a $25,000 bid that comes in that offers everything, that integrates well, that does all that. But when we only look at 3 out of 100, hundreds out there, it to me at least that doesn't warrant the legitimacy for waiving the bidding requirements.
Sure, and just point on that, it is 25 a year, so we're looking at 3 years. The reason that it's here is because I would like to enter into the 3 years to lock in the rate, where we could do an annual one and it would not lock in the rate. It would subject to us having to renew every year and then following the fluctuation of the market.
I'm sorry, did you just say this is a $25,000 per year contract for a 3-year term?
Yes, each year is 25,000. Yep. So that's the total at the end of the day is the 75. Yep. But each year it's the 25. Yes.
It's still a
Just
75.
the difference of it, just to us
Yeah.
that it's not 75 every year. So they were coming in at between like 21 to 25. That's where they've been coming in. That was that range, and that's across the board. So while I did engage with 3 different vendors very specifically, that is a range across the board. Working with Entrust, that is the general range for what you're going to find. So it's within that range. They actually go up to like 28, 29 if you're getting all bells, whistles, and glitter added to them. But so it fell within the range that our advisors have been showing us.
Yeah,
So.
and I'm not even hung up on the actual like price, because it looked like in the minutes that you guys verified with the company that looks fair. It's more the perception of it, for the public perception, and just not knowing when there's hundreds available. We look at 3. The perception is there that that we hand selected this one, and that can happen with private dollars because they're private, but not public dollars. I think we have I think we have a right to put this out to bid.
Councilor Johnson.
Councilor Sweeney, go ahead. You had your light on first. Go ahead. All right. How did we get to those 3 companies? Were they willing to reach out to us, or were we selecting them?
They were ones that had experience with our COS system, so they were ones that were recommended that already had existing APIs to be able to interconnect with the system that we were already going to start with. So that was one of the qualifiers. Recommendations came through Entrust, so the group that we've been working with, and through other fiber vendors. Like I spoke to one out of Holland, Michigan, and one out of KPUD, so that was out of Washington State. So a few other people doing open access. So it was not, that was the route by which these 3 were looked at, or found.
Councilor Sweeney.
Thank you. I don't know what the correct number would be to put out for bids, okay? Obviously, you couldn't get hundreds, and we have, on occasion, not accepted the low bid, if you would. I don't know, we don't know if this one would have been the low bid. But at the very least, if we do accept this, we should put verbiage in why we picked this one and have it written right into if we accept this, because that's important for fellow councilor said, for perception, okay? We have chosen this company because of the 3. We felt it was the best. But what does that mean? So if there's verbiage, put it in there, and you can live in that world, and you honestly believe that, then we should put it in there. So at least if the public questions that, you can say, we picked them because whatever the reasons are, okay? I don't know what, if you put it out for, I don't know what, you couldn't send out 100 bids. That would not make sense to me. But that probably is a correct number. But we have done that. I think we've avoided the bidding process before, but I'm a big believer in the bidding process. But that's a possibility. Thank you.
Further discussion. Council, I'm rapidly reading the bid procedures you'd think I'd have memorized by now to see if I can give if it provides any advice. Where this is weird is that it's a 3-year contract, because if this were a 1-year contract, this would not be required to go out for bid. It's exactly $25,000 a year?
Yes.
Okay, because the bid procedure requires bids $25,000 or less do not need to go up for bid. However, I can't see anything related to multi-year contracts, so I would presume that the exemption is required at least, but it does meet the threshold for a single year. That said, other questions or discussion? The question is specifically whether to waive the bid procedure, not to approve the contract. Okay, then.
Mayor Penn, if I could just piggyback on what you just said there is, But you can't daisy chain 3 different contracts together and say the first one's under 20, the second one's under 20, third one's under 20. Otherwise, what we could do is award 100 contracts to the same contractor for sidewalk repairs. You know, $24,000 contract for Ohio, $2,500 contract for Lackawanna. If it's for bid, unless the council chooses to waive that bidding requirement.
Yes, I think that's correct. I think a 3-year contract is, I think it's $75,000. Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing anything that applies to a single year. But okay. So I know that wasn't very helpful. Councilor Elm.
Yeah, I just want to restate, we get the request to waive bidding requirements from directors presented to council all the time. Sometimes it even skips committee. So I think we had brought this to committee to try to vet that and ask those questions as well. So I don't think this is anything particularly unique here. So
I'm sensing enough division that I'm going to call for roll call. Is there any final discussion first? Councilor Fennessy.
If I could, I think I'm at my limit here. It is, and I think to that point, you're absolutely right. And Councilor Sweeting kind of alluded to it as well, that whenever there's a request in front of us to waive the bidding requirements, it makes logical sense. It's because it's a proprietary software, perhaps. It's through the government state contract of predetermined pricing. It's in an emergency where we have to. We need a new heater, and it's 40 below right now. It makes sense. Whenever we've done it in the past, it's always made sense. The fact that here we took from a pool of hundreds, looked at 3, brought 1 to the IT committee, who was allowed the unfair advantage to make a presentation, and now it's here to waive the bidding requirements. To me, that doesn't make logical sense, because most of the other time it's like, this is why we need to do it. I don't see the fact that we thought it was going to be 25,000, but now it's 75,000. That doesn't make logical sense to me to just waive the bidding requirements and give this to this company.
Anything else, Councilor? Because I won't be able to come back to you. Any other discussion, Councilor Herrick?
Yeah, could this be renewed or approved at the $25,000 with the intent that it can be renewed the following 2 years at that amount? In other words, we'll just approve it for $25,000 tonight with the intention that each year we approve it, but somehow maybe work with the company, see if they could get that in writing where, it has the opportunity to be renewed at the $25,000 for the next year, if that makes any sense.
It's a good question. I guess I don't usually approach contracts like that. We do have a representative from the vendor online if we wanted to talk to him. He did present a 1-year contract, so we would have that option. But then the rate it's subject to change then, right? If we agree to a 1 year, it's subject to change on the next year. I don't know how they would feel about that.
Unfortunately, Councilor, I think the question's out of order because we'll definitely be considering a 3-year contract with the very next question. So what I'm struggling with, though, is it sounds like if it were a 1 year, that would change your opinion on this. But the fact is, if it were a 1-year contract, it is not required to go out for bids. That doesn't mean the council can't send it out for bids. I'm going to hold off your question until the next question. I think we got to decide whether to waive the bidding procedure right now. Councilor Van Sickle.
Thank you, Chair. Manager Becken, I just want to just acknowledge and thank you for all the work that you are putting into in building this from scratch. And I had the same question that Councilor Johnson had. So from what I'm hearing is that there weren't hundreds of eligible potential providers based on the way you narrowed them down by their qualifications and their experience. Because that's what I had the same question. What got you down to the 3? Or what excluded the hundreds? Because it sounds like maybe hundreds weren't actually qualified and you had a pool closer to 3.
Sure, there's lots of different things out there. I mean, you can find just about any sort of fiber management system out there. Some of them are far more likely to better support a utility system than a fiber system. So a lot of the ones that are out there do that. They are really great for an electronic system. So they're really good if you run electric. They're really good if you run water. So if you're using all of those, then those existing systems, and that's what many of those hundreds are. Those are those big utility ones that are tracking all of those different things. I don't want it to do that. We just need a fiber one, right? And that is what Vetro does. They are specifically a fiber mapping system. They don't have electric. They don't have the other pieces to it. It is a specialized tool for a very specialized system, and it works within the ones that we already have. So the ones that we were looking at, they were those specialized tools within that specialized system. They were the ones that only did fiber. There was one that was really heavy on the GIS side, so some of them require a lot more manpower. They are made for bigger systems where you have 15 people in GIS that are able to process all of that data because it's really data heavy. And then you have ones that are lighter on that. So this one is one that is lighter on the having to have the GIS programmer constantly working on it. So that's where we fell on this one.
Councilor Johnson.
Just two follow-up questions. You mentioned that they did present a one-year contract. Was it for $25,000?
I think it is also 25. Yep.
And then with it sounds like the reason you selected these was because they were recommended. Is that?
Yeah, recommended and from people in the industry and also from Entrust. So, yep, they were recommended a few different places, just like all of them were. They were recommended by people that were already using them, that already used open access networks.
So the folks that we, Vetro is one that was, have they worked with some of the companies that we're partnering with already for Connect Superior?
Yeah, yep. So that's one of the things that works really great. They have a really robust API for our COS system, and that's going to be that billing and provisioning system. So they have worked with them for years. So that is they speak well together, right? When you are combining all of these different systems to work, you need them to be able to speak well together. So it's not like there was like a hard recommendation from them, but they were on the list of ones that work well.
So, but it's not the only one that works well, right?
Nope, that's why we're looking at the other ones as well. Yep.
Okay. Director Reinhardt had asked to speak. Director Reinhardt? You're on mute. Okay. What do you think of something? Any further discussion on the question of whether to waive the bidding procedure?
I just have a quick question. So, more of a hypothetical. If this is not approved this evening, this would potentially just stay in committee or go back to committee for more discussion. What would be the timeline there?
We're going to have to put it out to bid. So
okay.
we would not be able to enter a 3-year contract. I just cannot find an exemption in the bid procedure to a $75,000 contract without council approval. So what we would do, as with anything that waives the bid procedure, we'd put it out to bid first thing in the morning.
Okay, so put it out to bid, timeline there. I mean, essentially you mentioned the date of September 3rd, which is when fiber will be laid. Is that what I heard?
That is when Handco starts.
So this decision tonight could stop the process of the momentum that we have on the project?
Delay, certainly.
Delayed?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Counselor, I just can't. I got you down for 3. I think Manager Becken did explain. Do you want to explain one more time why this would delay it?
Yeah, this would delay it because this is the process for redlining. So once they actually start doing the hard work out there, right? So they have the maps of what it's supposed to look like. At the end of the day, there will be adjustments on those maps. The red line comes back, and then it gets put up into the online system. So it's best when it's going simultaneously because then you're able to troubleshoot it. You're able to make changes as it's going. It's the most accurate when it's happening at the same time. It is the most accurate when it is at the same time.
Okay. Any, Counselor Sweeney?
I understand that there are 100 companies, let's say 100, but it's the responsibility of the person that's sending out the bid to write the specs clear enough that you would eliminate 85%, whatever the number would be, to make it clear, and then you may only get 4 or 5 bids. I'm a big believer in the bidding process. I live in that world and always have. So I realize it's easier, and I realize you're busy, and we want to get this through. But if the specs were written, you would eliminate. If you send out 100, you may eliminate 85, 90 of them just by, because they don't do that. You already know that some people don't do that. So, but there must be more than 3 that could fulfill that responsibility. So, thank you.
Councilor Elm, I believe, for the final time.
All right. I think I asked this at CIT, but like, what do we do if we don't have this software? And it was essentially laid out as we'd be using spreadsheets, trying to negotiate these connections and interconnections, as well as mapping this. This is the time to have this software, is when we're putting in the fiber and laying it out. It's important that we have this, and this was particularly needed because it works with ArcGIS. That's what our city uses for GIS. It works with the COS system software. It works with the Nokia networking equipment that's going to be purchased or in the process of, and then it has the mobile access in the field. So when it comes to some of this technical stuff, it's important to have the right software in place. And also, there's been a real tight timeline on here. Could it have been done a little differently? Perhaps, but I really think this is the right choice at this time.
Any further discussion? Councilor Herrick.
Yeah, just one more point again. Okay, I know it says 3-year agreement, but I'm just throwing this out there. Okay, if we approved it for 1 year, that'd be able to get the project going, and then couldn't you put the bids out for the other 2 years? Since you're looking at a total of 3 years for this particular area?
I don't know, I'm probably going to do what you tell me to do. So, so if that is a path that you would want to take, I don't know if that would need to. I do have the information for the 1 year. I mean, if that is a compromise, that is a good fit for this. That could, I think that would be a pathway that we could take, if that is what you're excited about.
All right, thank you.
If there is no further discussion, I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll. The question is whether to waive the bidding procedure for this particular vendor. So a yes agrees to waive the bidding procedure. A no declines to waive it.
Sweeney. Fennessy. Yes. Elm. Yes. Ludwig.
Councilor Fennessy, do you want to change your vote? Yeah, say that again. We'll retake the vote. A yes vote waives the bidding procedure, agrees to waive the bidding procedure. A no vote does not. A no vote declines to waive the bidding procedure. Would you please recall the roll, beginning with Councilor Sweeney?
Councilor Sweeney.
No.
Councilor Fennessy.
No.
Councilor Elm.
Yes.
Councilor Ludwig. Yes. Councilor Herrick.
I'd just like this, just before I give my vote, I'd like to release this with the 1 year. I don't know if that could change the to that, so at this point.
It would be the next question.
No. Okay. Councilor Johnson. No. Councilor Grasky. Yes. Councilor Ledeen.
Yes.
Councilor Van Sickle. Yes. Councilor Moffitt.
Yes.
6.
The vote is 6 in favor, 4 against. We have waived the bidding procedure. The next question, moved by the same motion and second, is whether to enter into a 3-year agreement with Vetro Incorporated for a subscription to Vetro FiberMap operator in the total amount of $75,000. So you have waived the bidding procedure. You are now authorized to approve this agreement. There is a motion and a second. Discussion on approving the agreement or questions about what I just said. Councilor Sweeney.
Do we know, or did you ask at the time, if we did not go for a 3-year bid, what the prices would be? Did they indicate that to you? What are we saving, in other words?
Oh, sure, by locking into the 3. I believe it's about a 3% rate increase every year. So we're looking at about 3%.
Okay.
Yep, so that's usually about industry standard. It's about 3% it raises every year. And I don't know that they would then also honor that
So 750.
right, and they were waiving like the cost of the COS integration for all 3 years on this one as well, which is, I think, $7,500 a year on that one. So we would be forfeiting the following 2 years of that. So that brings it up to more like 15 there.
So what are we saving if we go with a 3-year? That's my question.
Oh, thank you. So if we are going...
$750, I get the 3%. That's what
sure.
was the other part?
Oh, so the other part is the integration to our COS system. So at this point, they are waiving that, and that is $7,500 a year.
So that's 15,000.
Yep. In the following 2 years, if we only go to one, we would forfeit having those 2 years waived.
It's 15,000.
Yes.
Thank you. Plus okay.
Plus that annual increase, that industry standard is about 3%.
Further discussion? Councilor Fennessy.
I'll make a motion to go do the 1 year at least in the contract, it was 24,500, or not in the contract, but the presentation is what it is for year 1.
And then there's a 500 implementation. That's where it falls on that presentation. Okay. Yep, it's on the next page.
Oh, yeah. Okay, it's for 25,000.
Your motion is to amend the motion to change the number 3 to the year 1 and the number to the number 1 and the number $75,000 to $25,000. That is motion. Is there a second to that motion? Second is by Councilor Herrick. The discussion is on whether to amend. Councilor Van Sickle.
Thank you. Can you remind me per year how much money we're saving now on this agreement?
They're waiving the integration for COS, which is $7,500.
Per year?
Yes. So the first year they're waiving it, and they're carrying that to the second and the third year as well. So that brings it to 15, yeah.
Plus 750.
Plus, like a 3% rate increase year to year is usually what you see. Like we would expect if we were looking at this exact same system a year from now, it's going to be a 3% increase. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What's 3% of $25,000? 750. Okay. So.
1,500.
Okay. So.
15,000 plus 15, 16,500.
Thank you. Thank you.
Question remains on whether to amend any from a 3-year to 1-year contract. Councilor Ludwig.
I get, we're just talking dollars here, but think about changing software every year for the next 3 years, what it will do to the time of our employees. So I just, when I think about learning new software every year, and we're talking about our employees out in the field too, and I need to remind the council too that the CIT committee has members, IT members that work in the field that know this, and we have a consultant who recommended this. We have GIS, our GIS people looked over the software and recommended this software. And so I, as a council member, I don't know that much about IT, and so who am I to, $25,000 a year, we have waived things before on the bidding process, and so I just want you to consider not just dollar amounts.
Further discussion on the question to amend. Councilor Fennessy.
I think it's clear to point out that our consultant did not recommend this company. We brought this to the consultant, at least the meeting minutes. This company was brought to the consultant. The consultant said, yes, that is a decent company. It's a good price. So the consultant did not recommend this, unless I'm wrong.
I'll be honest, I talk to our consultant a lot. Councilor Fennessy, I will just be very, very honest. The amount of time that I've spent talking and looking through things is intense. So I'm never going to be one that tries to It's not the hill I'm going to die on. But to say that very highly looked upon. So, but I always hesitate to say it's like, here, they said to take this one, because that's not cool either. So, but it was one that was in the mix of top brands, very reliable, backstory, one that our consultant has used. So when they had a fiber map, they also had direct experience with it. But is it because of that? That's just one of many things that go into the recommendation.
And then the other reality of this is we have funded this phase one, period. That's it. That's the only thing that's funded right now is phase one. If we enter into even a 2-year agreement, phase one will be built in year one. There may not be a need for this software in year 2 if we can't find the funding for because the grants aren't coming in. So if we don't find the funding for year 2 to expand this, there isn't going to be a need for year 2 or year 3 or even year 10. There's a need right now for year 1 because that's fully funded, and that's it.
Further discussion. Councilor Sweeney.
Last time. A core value of a city and public is to go put things out to bid. Should be rare exceptions where we don't, but I understand all these things that went on. I understand it's a lot of work, and I applaud you for doing all the work. But a core value of the city of government is to put things out for bid when they exceed a certain price. And so that's my last comment. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the question? The motion is to amend from a 3-year to a 1-year contract. If there's no further discussion, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilor Fennessy.
Yes.
Councilor Elm. No. Councilor Ludwig. No. Councilor Herrick. Yes. Councilor Johnson. Yes. Councilor Grasky. No. Councilor Ledeen. No. Councilor Van Sickle. No. Councilor Moffett.
No.
Councilor Sweeney.
Yes. 6-4. The motion is 4 in favor, 6 against. The motion to amend fails. We are on the main motion. The question is whether to enter into a 3-year agreement for $75,000. Discussion on the main motion.
Just to kind of piggyback on my last point, more with a question though. If is there let's say that it was built out fully, 100%, everything's done. Is there still the need for this software to, like every year moving forward? Is this going to be a $25,000 spend as long as we have the broadband network, or is this more just for the planning and getting it in? Kind of like at one point our GIS had no streets. Now that all the streets are there, it's just someone there to do the maintenance.
That's a really good question. And when it is totally built out, I think we do, at any point really, we have the option to go to a different system. So since this does, and we have the option to go in-house with it and use our own GIS system. Right now, our GIS system is not equipped to do that at all. It's not. It's a different animal. But when we are to the point that we're built out and we have the different staff capabilities, there is potential to do that so that it would not necessarily be a lifelong sentence. So that will be a different day I would imagine that this will be a good tool for quite a while though as we are building out, because it's not just showing where it is. It helps you troubleshoot. It keeps track of all your splicing. It shows how everything's connected. So one of the main fibers has something like 412 fibers in it that gets split 32 different ways. Each of those fibers does. So keeping track of all of those things in a highly detailed system is what we need to be able to do. Today, this would be the system that does this, rather like in a whole package. In the future, we may be able to approach that differently though.
And so until we bring it in-house, am I understanding that this would be like a separate software that, whatever the price is, $25,000 or whatever years from now, and I'll use your term, the lifelong sentence. But until we bring it in-house, right?
Until we were to bring it in-house or find something else that we like. So this is a 3-year contract, again, not life sentence. So if through this, we're finding different things that work well. If at one point we need to go out to bid for a different system, the formats that this use are able to switch to different things. So we can since it is compatible with our GIS system, since it's compatible with all the shape files, right? Since that is the case, it can create data that can be used in different tools.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Johnson.
Thanks. Councilor Sweeney kind of jogged my memory a little bit. So do we know if this cost would be covered under some of the grant funding that we're looking to see?
Yep, I double checked with Finance Director Reinhardt. It is all right to use the different systems that we are purchasing under the ARPA budget. Yep.
I'm glad that it falls under that cost, but does it also? Do we know if it would fall under the BEAD grant? Do we have any update on where we're at with that? If this would fall underneath that?
Sure. BEAD grant, from my understanding, is more of your infrastructure side. So not necessarily the systems that help support it, but more the actual hard infrastructure. Totally could be wrong with that. That continues to evolve, and they continue to tweak a wee bit on what they allow for expenses. But that is predominantly that hard infrastructure.
Okay. And do we know status on any of those infrastructure grants?
Yep, they just opened the time where you can put your initial interest letter in. So State of Wisconsin, that opened a week ago, maybe 10 days ago. So that's where it is.
Councilor Van Sickle.
I just have something of a related question. Thank you. Did Douglas County, and does this affect us at all? I feel like a year or two ago, they changed what they used for GIS. Could that impact this? Okay.
Nope,
Do we
ours
use
complement. Yeah,
ArcGIS?
we use the same. Yep, we use the same. So, yep.
But they're not like tied together.
Ooh, we're getting into weeds that I don't want to speak out of turn
so if
because
they,
I'm John
if they
business.
change, it doesn't matter.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. And through all of this, have been working side by side with the GIS team, and that is.
Further discussion? Councilor Grasky.
I don't know.
Is there further discussion then? Hearing none, I will ask the clerk to call the roll. The question is whether to authorize entering into a 3-year agreement with Vetro Incorporated for a 3-year cost of $75,000.
Counselor Elm. Yes. Counselor Ludwig. Yes. Counselor Herrick. Yes. Counselor Johnson. Yes. Counselor Grasky. Yes. Counselor Dean. Yes. Counselor Van Sickle. Yes. Counselor Moffett.
Yes.
Counselor Sweeney. Yes. Counselor Fennessy.
No. The vote is 9 in favor, 1 against, and the motion carries.
All right. At this time, are there any further committee or commission reports to be made? No, I'll move on to new business. Item 10.1, I am recommending approval of miscellaneous licenses.
Motion is by Councilor Fennessy, second by Councilor Elm. All those in favor, please. I'm sorry, is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 10.2, I am recommending approval of a request for unlimited transfer of full-service retail outlet by producer Earthrider Brewing for an event Superior Pride located at 1211 Banks Avenue on September 1st from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. for the on-premise consumption of beer.
Motion is by Councilor Grasky, second by Councilor Moffett. Is there discussion? Double check the address. This is the Lot, our new performance space in downtown. If there's no discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 10.3, I'm recommending the conditional approval of an original cigarette, tobacco, and electronic vaping device retail license to Jimmy's Saloon LLC, doing business as Jimmy's Saloon, located at 1812 Iowa Avenue, for the over-the-counter sales of cigarettes for the current license period ending June 30th, 2025, pending approval by police and fire departments.
Motion is by Councilor Johnson, second by Councilor Fennessy. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 10.4, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Forestry, KDOT is recommending approval of a direct purchase of 2 plumbed precast restroom facilities for Webster Dream Park and Central Park from Huff Cut in the amount of $175,900.
Motion's by Councilor Fennessy, second by Councilor Ledeen. Is there discussion? Councilor Sweeney.
So my only question is, I assume this is a water system?
Yeah, these are plumbed bathrooms, yes.
Okay.
So they're the same bathrooms that we've been installing in the other parks. Some are plumbed and some are what we call pit toilets, but these would be plumbed.
So when the winter, these don't have to be winterized, or they do?
Oh, that's a good question, Director. I'm sorry.
So somebody does that, though. Somebody has to do that.
Yes, that maintenance would be done by our Parks Department. To be clear, since it doesn't show, if you don't use your mics, councilors, it doesn't show up on the light. Councilor Ledeen said that they are blown out and are not used in the winter, which I learned right now.
Okay, but somebody has to do it, right?
Yes.
So the Park and Rec in-house does that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion. Hearing, Councilor Van Sickle?
Sorry, just to be clear, this did not go out to bid, is that right?
No, we are recommending waiving the bid procedure.
Okay.
This is the same, the Huff Cut bathrooms are the same bathrooms we've purchased for the other parks.
Okay, thank you.
If there is no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 10.5, Public Works Director Janigo is recommending awarding the Billings Drive Culvert Replacement Project to Viet and Company Incorporated at the bid price of $139,737.10.
Motions by Councilor Johnson, second by Councilor Herrick. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
10.6, Public Works Director Janigo is recommending approval of a resolution setting a public hearing of the Common Council on August 20th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. in the Government Center, Room 201, to notify the public of improvements and solicit public feedback for the R.I. Bong Memorial Airport and request of state and federal funding by petition to the Wisconsin Bureau of Aeronautics.
Motion was made by Councilor Moffett. Who made the motion? Councilor L made the motion. Councilor Herrick made the second. Councilor Janigo was asked to address the council. I'm sorry, Director Janigo. It's getting late.
I just wanted to say that I think the headline is wrong. That would set the public meeting for today, August 20th.
Okay. That would be germane. Is there objection to what's the actual date? Who's got this? The next council meeting, right?
September 3rd, I believe.
Okay. Is there objection to that amendment to the resolution? That it would set the public hearing on September 3rd in the Government Center, Room 201? Hearing no objection, the resolution will be so amended. Okay. Is that what you were going to say, Councilor Moffett? Okay. Is there any further discussion on this resolution? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries. We have one person signed up to speak in public comment. That is a Mr. Harry O'Davis. Sir, if you wouldn't mind approaching the podium. Becky, you might turn the light on. There's a light to turn on. We allow exactly 3 minutes for public comment, sir, which I rigorously enforce, but I'll give you a 30-second warning. I'll have to cut you off at 3 minutes. So, welcome.
Hi. My name is Harry Davis, and I want to say good evening to Mr. Mayor, city councilors, and the others who are here. The reason I'm here is that my wife and I just moved to the community, and I want to give you some feedback just to let you know that we've had a very warm welcome to the community. In fact, I had a nice conversation with Councilor Fennessy about a week and a half ago on something that was really curious to me, and so I'll make a brief comment about that. But I want you to know we're thrilled to be here. One thing we noticed right away as we were coming into the community were the abundant NTEC yard signs. Many in favor, many opposed, and I want to commend the City Council from what I learned early on in your position to deny permitting of the NTEC facility, the project. There is certainly a growing demand for electricity, and so I understand the need. There's not a question about that. But I believe that a natural gas-fired power plant is already outdated technology. I'm a retired school teacher as of June, so I'm not an expert in the area, but I understand that there are other less expensive renewable technologies that can easily meet our energy needs and provide the kind of jobs that our community and the Northland needs as well. So your actions are giving all parties a chance to take another look at our energy needs, and also to take a look at both proven and emerging energy technologies to meet those needs. So this time will give us an opportunity to make more responsible choices for our energy storage and our energy generation, which are the sort of the two pivotal arguments to have the project built. And I want to thank you for taking a stand on this issue and giving us a chance to look at it again. So that's all I have for you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak in public comment? Hearing none, we have no further business. Councilors, and are adjourned. Thank you.